What's up? I'm Cody Tilley, and I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining us along this adventure. Make sure to hit that subscribe button right now and follow us on all social media platforms. Merchandise is available at talkswithtilly.square.site. Links available in the bios. Is anyone else not as young as they was yesterday? Let me tell you something. I am hurting today. We had a volleyball tournament at our family fun day at church this last week. And, I'm a pretty competitive person. That's just me. I am a very competitive person, actually. So, of course, and I have some of my youth kids in this tournament, and I'm just going to tell you, the first game, we put the smack down on them, and I got a bunch of basketball boys and stuff like that, and I just smoked it one's face, and I'm not going to talk about the other games after that, but it doesn't matter. The first game, we put the smack down on them, and one boy, he's 6'3", I'm only about 6 foot, and I just spiked one in his face, and he will never live it down. Welcome to being the life of a youth pastor. So anyway, hey, I've got something for you today, and I really pray that it's just encouraging for you. It's not a super long podcast today, but I do want to just encourage you, and I feel like a lot of people go through a little bit of what I'm going to talk about. But I like to talk about seasons a lot of times, and that we have seasons of ups and downs and things like that. But a lot of the times when God gives me an idea, I will write it down, and I'll put it in my little notepad in my phone, and I'll jot the topic idea down and say, okay, hey, this is something that I think God's laid on my heart, and then I'll come back to it because I might be riding down the road or sitting in my office or just somewhere where I don't really have time to really just elaborate on it, but I just get hit with this idea or this feeling, this emotion or whatever it is. So I just write it down, and I was scrolling through some of those and I saw one of them that really resonated with me because it is something that I can almost remember the time when I had this, when God this laid this on my heart. And it's simply this, is that remember who was with you in the valley. And what I mean by that is, when I talk about these seasons of ups and downs, is remember who was with you whenever you were at that low point. Remember who was with you whenever that thing, like things weren't good. Things were not happening the way that you wished you were. Maybe you weren't in the best spot in life, and life was just tough. I look back at that and I ask God a lot of times that, I've looked back and asked God a lot of times why, but then he shows me pretty evident after the situation is over, and if I would only look for it. But, I think one thing that I catch myself is, I'm a pretty trusting person, all right? So I'm one of those guys, I never really think that you have, bad intended for me. And I'm never looking at you thinking that, you have, you're looking to hurt me, quote unquote. I just assume hey, if we meet and we talk, hey, we're friends, we're cool. That's just where I'm at. I mean, I literally can talk to a brick wall. Hence why I have a podcast. So, but that's one of those things. And the thing I learned about it though, was that, I think a lot of these times that God may be trying to show us something in our life, but we ignore it because we're we don't think about it. Now, let me preface by saying this. Nothing that I'm fixing to say or talk about has anything to do with unforgiveness or not loving someone, because you should forgive and love everyone. What I'm telling you, though, is sometimes that there's some people that maybe are in the wrong spot in your life. Is what I really want to get across, is that maybe there's some people that don't have your best intentions in mind, and God's like, hey, they're not in the right spot in your life, and you need to double check that. Because for me, that I know that I have let some people back in some spots in my life before that they don't belong in. Just plain and simple. There's no other way to put it. Is I've been like, oh no, come back. But it's kind of funny, I'm not gonna say anything, but I'm just gonna say, have you ever had that one friend that the only time they showed up was when things were good? Have you ever had that one friend that the only time you hear from them is when, either when they need something or when, you're doing great and everybody else is on, and everybody's on your side? listen, I've been there. I've seen that, and I just was looking through, and God was kind of burdening my heart with, God will sometimes let these seasons of our life happen because He's going to show you who's really there for you and who has your best intentions in mind. Because the ones that are going to stick it out with you in the lows are going to be there with you the highest too. So don't forget about those people. Don't treat them wrong. Don't take them for granted. Let me say that. Whenever you get out of that low spot, remember who was there. Remember who was helping you along during those times whenever things were tough, whenever things were not easy, whenever you didn't have anybody else and they were still there for you. Don't leave them behind whenever you leave that season behind. But also remember that those that were only with you in the highs and they don't follow you to the lows, well, hey, man, that should tell you all that it needs to tell you right there, is that they're not there for you all the time. They're there for you when they need you and when things are convenient. And for me, man, it just, that when God was showing that, and it hurt because I was asking God, hey, man, I'm really seeing some different things out of some people. Like, why is this? What is going on? And I didn't really get a clear answer at the time. And then some time went past, and I started seeing, hey, God, you were just removing some people out of my life that, they didn't have my best intentions in mind. Now I still talk. I'm still. I still talk to them. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate anybody. But I've realized that the amount of information I share with them is a lot different now. The amount of stuff that I tell them, they don't need to know some of the stuff that I was telling them before, because guess what? That's just none of their business. That's not in something that in the role that they were designed to be in my life. So I have to see that. But what I want to encourage you with today, and just to remind you of, is that maybe you're in a tough season and you feel alone, or that you feel like you don't have a lot of people, and that's okay. But remember those few people that you do have. Remember those ones that are trying to be there for you, that honestly do care about you, even though that maybe they're not the people that you thought they would be, or maybe there's somebody new in your life that you haven't known for 10 years and they've only been around for a couple months that you've been friends with, but God has put them in your life, and they've stuck some low times out with you, and they've checked on you when nobody else is checking on you. And that during these times that, hey, like God is using them in your life for a reason. Don't ignore that. Don't ignore that the people that God sends with you to the valley. Because in that time, in that valley, guess what? You're going to find out a lot about not only about yourself, if you'll look, and you'll see what God is doing and showing you about your life. You're not only going to find out a lot about yourself, you're going to find out a lot about who is there with you. Who is sitting right next to you, picking you up, holding your hand? Who is right there next to you every time you fall down, picking you right back up and saying, let's go? That spot in Ecclesiastes that, a lot of people use it at weddings, and I do as well, but it talks about, that two are better than one. Because all these things, that if one falls there, that someone is there to help them up. That how is one to lie down and keep warm, but two can keep warm. But two is better than one, and three is better than two. That is better to be united. And we know that we were meant for a relationship. But what I'm saying is that look at who is in your life whenever you're in those seasons. Don't ignore those people, and don't take those people for granted. Don't take the people for granted that are there for you, because I'm guilty of it as the rest of us, is that, sometimes our friends, we can take them for granted. The ones that we know are going to be there for us. We know we can count on them, so we don't necessarily always count them in. Let me say that just one more time, because we are guilty that because we know we can count on them, we don't always count them in. But at the end of the day, what I want you to understand is, don't take the valley for granted at that. Because God might be using that time just to show you and to weed some people out of your life. Some people were not intended to be there. Some people were in the wrong spot in your life, and some things needed to change. So don't always think that because some people were taken out of your life, some things were changed, some people were removed, and maybe it didn't happen in the prettiest way, that it's always a bad thing. Maybe they were just supposed to be there for a season. Maybe that their purpose was served and now it's on to something new. And maybe they just weren't serving the right purpose in your life and they were in the wrong spot. So here's my encouragement for you today. Even if you're in the valley, or maybe you've been through the valley and some people have been taken out of your life, some people have been removed out of your life, and you see them around and you don't necessarily understand what happened. Maybe that was all for a reason. Maybe there needed to be some pruning. But I will tell you this, you're still called to love them. And if you have a grudge, you need to go get that right with them. You don't need to barter or you don't need to hold any unforgiveness on your heart, because guess what? That's going to drag you down. You need to realize that the spot that they were in just wasn't the right spot. That they were in your life for a season, but there's no reason to grudge or to hold unforgiveness or to have any sort of hatred towards them. Now, because if you do, the Bible clearly says that you're to go to that person and make that right. But don't think that just because things aren't like they used to be, that's how they're always supposed to be. Hey, I love y'all. Y'all have a great week, and I'll see you again next week. Peace.